welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and today's video is 5 things to expect from Manchester United versus Chelsea in the FA Cup semi-final. So Manchester United are through to the FA Cup semi-final after beating Norwich, in which we will play Chelsea. Now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has played Frank Lampard 3 times this season with an 8-1 aggregate score. He's won all 3 games, and Manchester United have been on better form than Chelsea lately. We're probably the favourites going into this game. So this is my match preview for the Manchester United versus Chelsea game, the FA Cup semi-final, where I'm going to be talking about 5 things to expect from the game. From Manchester United's lineup, what lineup do I predict to see? How are Manchester United going to play? What do we need to watch out for? Where are Chelsea's weak spots that we might exploit? What's my predicted scoreline? And more. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe down below. Now, Manchester United, they have a better squad than Chelsea on paper. However, as we've seen this season, if you take a few players out of that Manchester United starting 11, our strongest starting 11, we're not that good. And I think going into the FA Cup, we are going to take a few players out, because I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has realised that top 4 is a priority over the FA Cup. I think, Van Gaal, he won the FA Cup, but he didn't get top 4, and then he was sacked. And I think as much as Solskjaer would like a trophy, the trophy he probably wants is the Europa League. And if I was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I would sacrifice the FA Cup for top 4 and the Europa League. Now let's get into my predicted lineup. So what's my predicted lineup? Well, I think there'll be a few changes, and I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to rest Pogba, Rashford and Martial. I think because we've got 3 games coming up in the next week, and 2 of those games are Leicester and West Ham, which are very important games, he's going to have to rest a few big names. So my predicted lineup, of course, includes Sergio Romero in goal. Right back, I've gone with Dalot, although I could see him playing Wan-Bissaka because he doesn't really like playing Dalot. And I think, if Pulisic is playing, Dalot defensively is a bit weak. But I've gone with Dalot just because I think he might rest Wan-Bissaka because, he looked a bit exhausted. I've gone with Bailly and Maguire. I think he'll always play Maguire. He just likes to play Maguire every game. He could go with Lindelof, but I think he'll give Bailly a shot. I think left back, Brandon Williams will be back. I think the 2 centre mids, which I'm 99% sure these will be our 2 CDMs, in McTominay and Fred. I think he will probably play Bruno Fernandes. Although myself, if I was manager, I'd give Bruno Fernandes a rest because I think West Ham and Leicester are really important and we don't want to exhaust him. I think he'll play Mata on the right, James on the left and Ighalo up front. Now that is a very much reduced lineup. You could actually see Pereira in there for Bruno if you wanted to reduce it even more, but it wouldn't surprise me if Rashford or Wan-Bissaka played, or maybe even Greenwood, but I do think he'll 100% rest Martial for Greenwood, and I could see Pogba being rested. But I think that's my predicted lineup for the game, because I think he needs to rest some key players, because I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to know that top 4 is a priority over FA Cup, and we're still in the Europa League, so if we want a trophy this season, we can get the Europa League. So that is my predicted lineup. Let me know your predicted lineup in the comment section down below. Now, the second thing I expect to see is Dan James to play. I think this is the perfect game for Daniel James. We haven't seen much of Daniel James since the break, since we've come back. And I thought the last few games before the break, Daniel James played really well, and obviously he started the season really well. And the thing we know about Daniel James is he lacks player intelligence, He does lack that quality. But the one thing he's really good at is counter-attacking, running at players and his speed. And I think the way we've beaten Chelsea 3 times this season is because Chelsea come at us playing their free-flowing attacking football, but Chelsea are vulnerable at the back. And we always get them on the counter, they always get caught out defensively. And I think Dan James will be perfect for this game, because I think Chelsea, they play a nice brand of football. I think Lampard plays a really nice style of attacking football, but they're vulnerable at the back, and this attacking football they play leaves gaps at the back. And a player like Dan James is going to be given space in this game to run with the ball, to hit Chelsea on the counter-attack, and I think this is a perfect game for Dan James, and I think this is a chance for Dan James to get an assist or a goal just to boost his confidence massively. And actually, Dan James has actually been really good against the top 6. I think like 50% of his goal contributions have actually come against top 6 sides, because he's very good when he's given space. You don't want Dan James in a game against Burnley where he's got no space, he's being tight marked. But Chelsea are going to give you space, and I think Dan James will be perfect for this game. The third thing I expect to see is I think Martial and Rashford will be subs. I'm going with my predicted lineup, and I think that Manchester United will have a strong subs bench just in case. I think we'll put somewhat around the lineup that I've predicted out, and I think we'll have a strong subs bench, because if it is 0-0 or if we're 1-0 down, we'll have Martial and Rashford on the bench. And we know that Chelsea's weak spot this season is defence. Obviously I don't think Kepa will play because it's FA Cup, but Chelsea's backline has been very weak this season, and with the form that Marcus Rashford and Anthony Martial's in, they can test that backline and cause them a few problems. So I think if Manchester United are 1-0 down at half-time, or it's a 0-0 in the 70th minute, I think Martial and Rashford are the players that he will sub on, because I'd say Chelsea's weak spot this season is defence, and I think there are players that can exploit Chelsea's defence, but I think he'll want to rest them mainly, so they'll only come on as second half subs. The fourth thing I expect to see is Manchester United playing the old style of sit back and counter-attack. Manchester United lately have been playing a more exciting brand of football, but I think in the FA Cup it's more about trying to get a result to keep that momentum going. I don't think it's a priority win, hence why my predicted lineup is much weaker than our squad. So I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer knows how to beat Chelsea. He's like, I'll put out a weaker lineup, but once if I play really deep and defensive, Tomo and Fred have proven this season that they're very good in that deep role when they're playing together. We've got a pretty solid back four. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer might think, once if I play deep and defensive and try and hit them on the break with the likes of Dan James, with the likes of Igalo. I think that's how he's likely to approach the game. I think sit back, counter-attack, and sort of the old style. I know it's not the nicest football to watch on the eye, but I do think Manchester United are going to set up quite defensively because we do have a solid defence and try and get Chelsea on the counter-attack. The fifth and final thing I expect to see is Chelsea to play a reduced lineup as well. I don't think Chelsea will play their strongest 11 considering they've got Liverpool and Wolves and they need to win them both to secure top four. If they lose to Liverpool and Man United and Leicester both win their next games and then we draw, Chelsea won't get top four because their goal difference is so bad. So Chelsea know they've got to win one of their remaining games. Maybe even both if Manchester United and Leicester win their remaining games and draw. Do you know what I mean? So Chelsea, I don't think they're going to come up with their strongest lineup. I think, players like Pulisic could be rested and Pulisic is probably their biggest threat attacking wise at the moment. I do think that Chelsea will play a reduced lineup as well, and I don't think it's going to be the most interesting game, but I think there's a chance we will go through because I don't think Chelsea are going to play a strong lineup, but I don't think we're going to play a strong lineup. The only problem with us is our first 11 really good, but our second lineup not so good. And we do want to keep that unbeaten streak going and that momentum going, but I do think that both teams will play a reduced lineup, and my predicted scoreline is going to be 1-0 Manchester United. Boring game, counter-attack goals, snatch and grab, defend, defend, defend. Deep. Now let me know your score predictions for Manchester United versus Chelsea in the FA Cup semi-final down below. If you have not already, please hit that like button, subscribe down below, share this video. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.